Good day everyone. My name is Krishna Joy Lori. We're going to tackle about the climate change. And now I am going to discuss about urgency and global impact. Every person in every country in every continent will be impacted in some shape or form by climate change. There is a climate cataclysm looming and we are underprepared for what this could mean. Climate change is caused by human activities and threatens life on Earth as we know it. With rising greenhouse gas emission, climate change is occurring at rates much faster than anticipated. Its impact can be devastating and include extreme and changing weather patterns and rising sea levels. If nations don't take immediate action to reduce their carbon footprint, the world may suffer catastrophic and irreversible effects of climate change, according to the latest climate report by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. Urgent and transformative going beyond mere plans and promises are crucial. It requires raising ambition, covering entire economies, and moving toward climate-resilient development, while outlining a clear path to achieve net zero emission. Immediate measures are necessary to avoid catastrophic consequences and secure a sustainable future for generations to come. These are some global impacts of climate change: hot temperature, more severe storm, loss of species, a warming rising ocean, not enough food, poverty and displacement, and more health risks. Scientific consensus will discuss by Ryan.
Next is scientific consensus. Just to give an insight to everyone about what is scientific consensus is, it is based opinion of the majority or the supermajority of scientists in a particular field of study at any particular time, which in this case will be about climate change. Okay, so to continue, this scientific consensus has been clearly expressed in the reports of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or widely known as IPCC. IPCC's purpose is to evaluate the state of climate science as basis for informed policy action, primarily on the basis of peer-reviewed and published scientific literature. At its most recent assessment, IPCC states that the consensus of scientific opinion is that the Earth's climate is being affected by human activities. IPCC is not alone in its conclusion. In recent years, all major scientific bodies in the United States whose members' expertise bears directly on the matter have issued similar statements. For example, the National Academy of Sciences report Climate Change Science said that greenhouse gases are accumulating in Earth's atmosphere as a result of human activities, causing surface air temperature and subsurface ocean temperature to rise, giving a conclusion to IPCC that most observed warming of the last 50 years is likely to have been due to the increase in greenhouse gas concentrations. Some organizations like American Meteorological Society, the American Geophysical Union, and the American Association for the Advancement of Science all have issued statements in recent years concluding that the evidence for human modification of climate is indeed compelling.
Mitigation and adaptation. Human activities is a fundamental cause of climate change, particularly the release of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. Adaptation and mitigation are key responses to this global challenge that we explore today. Mitigation. It focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, like practicing energy efficiency, embracing technologies and practices that optimize energy use, greater use of renewable energy, transition to sustainable sources like solar and wind power, electrification of industrial process, and lastly, efficient transportation implementation, promoting electric public transport, bicycles, and shared cars. Adaptation, which centers on minimizing the impacts of climate change. For example, more secure facilities, locations, and infrastructures. Landscape restoration and reforestation. flexible and diverse cultivation, adapting agriculture to be prepared for natural catastrophes. Research and development, understanding possible catastrophes, temperature variations, and behavioral shifts. And lastly, preventive and precautionary measures, establishing plans for evacuation, health initiatives, and more.
Proceeding to social and economic dimensions. Climate change has far-reaching social and economic implications that cannot be ignored. Its impacts are felt around the world, but it's important to recognize that vulnerable communities are disproportionately affected. These communities often have limited resources and are more susceptible to the adverse effects of climate change, exacerbating existing inequalities. Climate change also exacerbates existing inequalities as those who are already marginalized and disadvantaged face additional challenges. Women, indigenous people, and marginalized groups are often disproportionately affected as their traditional knowledge and resources are threatened. This further widens the gap between the rich and the poor, perpetuating social and economic inequalities.
International cooperation for climate change represents a pivotal force in addressing one of the most pressing challenges of our time. As our planet grapples with the far-reaching consequences of climate change, collaborative efforts among nations have become indispensable in forging effective solutions. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, sets out the basic legal framework and principles for international climate change cooperation with the aim of stabilizing atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases, or GHGs. The collaborative spirit of international climate initiatives has heightened public awareness, fostering a global sense of responsibility and inspiring innovative solutions to combat the challenges posed by climate change.
Climate change is a global challenge that requires both individual and collective action to mitigate its impact. Here is an overview of how individuals and collective efforts address climate change. Individual action. Reduce carbon footprint. Individuals can reduce their carbon footprint by using public transport, carpooling, biking, or walking instead of driving alone. They can also reduce energy consumption by using energy-efficient appliances and turning off lights and devices when not in use. Collective action. International agreements. Global collective actions include international agreements like the Paris Agreement, which sets targets to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In addressing climate change, both individual actions and collective efforts are essential. While individuals can make a difference through their choices and behaviors, the scale and urgency of the climate crisis necessitate concerted global, national, and community-level action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote sustainability, and rebuild resilience to a changing climate.